Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 2-hour educational series. The first class is going to be with an amazing woman, a true inspiration, who has written a book called Frankincense Resins, The Journey and Beyond. And she is the absolute specialist in learning and understanding how to use frankincense. She is a specialist as a clinical aromatherapist working in hospice. She has written in many different aromatherapy journals and publications. She's on the board trustee. She's a board trustee of the International Federation of Professional Aromatherapists. She's a professional member of AIA and a clinical member of NAHA, and also a professional teacher at NAHA, where she offers continuing education classes for credits. And today we are going to learn quite a bit about frankincense. We're probably going to dispel some myths, but we're also going to learn quite a bit about what we can actually use frankincense, the essential oil, and the powder for your benefits. Okay, so let's take it away, Robin.
Hi, everyone. Well, Mark told you all about me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint. And I'm actually going to give you visuals because most people have no clue what frankincense is and what it does and what it even looks like. So we're going to go through that and I'm going to start to share. Okay.
Nice.
And I'm going to set it up as, let's see if we could set it up as a slideshow. Okay. So this happens to be just a picture of different resins in a dish that was given to me as a gift. And sit back, take some notes, and you're going to have a lot, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to see a lot. So let's go through. As he said who I am, I'm a clinical aromatherapist in senior and hospice care. I research everything I could possibly know about frankincense and resins. I actually started a Facebook group specializing in resins and how to learn about them. And of course, in this webinar, you're going to learn everything you could possibly know about certain frankincense resins because there's a whole bunch of them, and we'd be here for 5 hours if I went through everything. So, what is frankincense resin? It's obtained from the trees of the genus Boswellia. Boswellia is the Latin name. Every plant and flower and shrub on the earth has a Latin name, and that's basically how you distinguish one species from another. Frankincense is the common name. So when people say to you, I want frankincense, you have to ask them which one, because there are 18 species of different Boswellia frankincense. So you can't just say frankincense. It's made out of oleoresin gum. The trees have a network of resin-bearing ducts that distribute this fragrant oleoresin gum used by the plants for defense against insects, fungi, and the repair of damaged tissue. So basically, when the tree, and how they figured this out, that it was medicinal, when the tree gets attacked by an insect, it basically spits out what you see here, the resin. And it's more like a sap when it comes out. When it hits the air, it gets hard and it will encase the mosquito, let's say, or the bug that's attacking the tree, and it'll crystallize it and kill it. The other thing that it does is when it has an infection, and it knows when it has an infection, it will spit this out, and it works like a bacteria, like an antibacteria, and it will heal itself. And that's basically how the tree works. And that's basically how they figured out that the tree had medicinal properties when they saw that a diseased tree all of a sudden cured itself. The trees start producing resin at about 8 to 10 years old. They are not harvested until they are about 20 years old. The trees are slashed, so they're slashed or striped to bleed, and it's called striping, as you could see in this picture here. The sap hardens and forms little beads of tears. That's where the name tears, the tears of frankincense, comes from, because they're actually little, they look like eye drop tears. They make a small, shallow incision on the trunk of the tree, and then it is left out in they take it off and they put it in big vats, and they let the air dry it, which now it becomes extremely hard, and then they break it up. So where do they come from? The trees come from Somaliland, Somalia, India, Pakistan, Ethiopia, Kenya, the Arabic countries, and now actually Sacra and Paparia are being grown in Israel at the bottom of the Gilead farm on the Dead Sea. So if you happen to be in Israel, I suggest you go there, because it's a miracle that it's growing in Israel on the Dead Sea. The only thing we think of why it's growing there, because when it grows in Somalia and the other countries, it's all desert. So that's all desert. So maybe that's why it grows there. The Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, and the Hebrews, and a number of other cultures used the resin as part of their religious ceremonies. Way back, the resin was used during Solomon's time for the high priestess, and it was considered sacred. And no one could go near this resin unless they were close enough to the high mighty. Resins were also used in burial rituals, especially in Egypt. Myrrh and frankincense were used to embalm their dead. And also they would offer it as an offering to cover the odor of the dead body. Frankincense, if kept correctly, can last for hundreds of years without being destroyed. As long as it's kept in a cool, dark place away from the sun, it could last for 30, 40, 50 years, if not longer. And back then, probably longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into each resin, and I'm going to explain each resin and how to use it. Boswellia papyria comes from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Kenya. It's distinguished, and this is the same for the essential oil, from all of the types of frankincense due to its large amount of octyl acetate and octanol, and two other chemical markers, insanol and insanol acetate. Studies showed that insanol acetate affects the central nervous system. It can be used for depression, anxiety, and may improve memory function. These are what the trees look like. And believe it or not, we've done studies on this, and we found that it definitely does affect the nervous system. It helps those with essential tremors. I happen to have essential tremors, and I make an infusion of it, which will go in later, of how to do that. And my tremors stop. And we found that in some cases it helps with those with Parkinson's disease And it also helps with those who have fibromyalgia. It relieves the pain. It looks like this. It has a sweet type of lemony smell. And if you can see this, this is basically what it looks like. Smells beautiful. I could sit here all day and smell it. And it can be burned, it can be ingested, and it can be infused in a carrier oil. There's a bunch, and we'll go through which ones do can be ingested and which ones can't. And it also contains a small amount of boswellic acid, which I will go through in a bit what that is. Boswellia cattari. Cattari has a beautiful aroma. It contains boswellic acid. It has a high percentage of alpha-pinene, which is anti-inflammatory and anti-macrobial. 90% of the resin is sold to the perfume industry in France, and France is one of its major purchases because it actually smells just like perfume. It's a very sweet smell. Traditionally, it's used as incense for fragrance, especially after cooking, especially for fish. The Somalis use it, they burn it after they cook their fish, and it gets rid of all the smells. It's burned to ward off mosquitoes, insects, and sandflies. There's a lot of sandflies in Somaliland and Somalia because it's in a desert, and that's where you get sandflies. Well, I will tell you, for mosquitoes, it definitely does work. You can put every essential oil on me to ward off mosquitoes, and they'll still attack me. If I take this outside and I burn it, not one mosquito attacks me. So I use it during the summer a lot. If added to water in the evening and soaked overnight, the water can be ingested for digestive issues, stomach problems, gas, and cramps. The resin looks just like the picture as you see here. Sometimes depending on the climate, the change in the climate, it can get lighter like this. Let's see if I can get a bigger piece so you can see it comes in very small pieces. And it actually looks like a tear, and it smells delicious. It's excellent. It's one of the best ones also for skin conditions, for psoriasis, for eczema, for dermatitis. It's excellent for that. Katari comes two ways. Katari comes with the bark, as you see in this picture here, and without the bark. When it's done with the essential oil, it's mostly done with the bark because it's cheaper. They don't have to sit there. The women don't have to sit there and laborially take off the bark of each piece.
That's
So,
interesting. I never thought of that.
yeah, most companies sell it with the bark only because, and you can tell the difference. Being an aromatherapist, I have a very good sense of smell. And I bought it, and when I started working with this company that distills it as first grade, whoa, what a difference. Smells different, totally different. And how you can basically tell in the GC report is if the alpha pinene is 30% or lower, it was made with the bark. If the alpha pinene is between 35 and 45%, then is a good possibility it was made without the bark. Without the bark, you get a richer, nicer Qatari, and you don't have the bark in it, so you're not losing some of the actual resin itself. But you don't learn that unless you become in the business, and then you learn, and then you say, oh my, why weren't I buying first grade? First grade is more expensive than second grade. That's in the resin, and that's also in the essential oil. Serrata. Serrata is a very interesting resin. It comes mostly from India, even though it does grow in Pakistan. It contains boswellic acid and it has a high percentage of alpha-theogen, which makes it antimicrobial. It's considered very similar to an acid or non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. It is used to treat arthritis, inflammation of the joints, bronchial asthma, and has shown promise treating ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. But it has a stigma, and it looks just like it did. It comes first grade and second grade. First grade is a very light brown. Second grade is gray. I only sell first grade, and that's what it looks like. We found out through the Frankincense group, actually, somebody came to me and told me that he took his mother to a cardiologist, and he knows that this person burns frankincense and is very big into frankincense. And he said, you should not be using Serrata. And he asked, why? And he said, because it has a problem with those on blood thinners and heart medicine. Well, it's also written supposedly in the medical journals over it. So I said, well, I got to research this more. So we went to a biochemist who works with essential oils to figure out what was going on. And we found it has a problem with those on blood thinner medication and those with blood problems. We suspect that this effect is due to the presence of estradiol, also known as methylcalcol, in the oil. According to Essential Oil Safety Edition of Robitussin, estradiol has an in vitro antiplatelet effect. This effect is similar to aspirin. Serrata contains, in the GC report, somewhere between 1 and 2%, depending on how it was distilled, of estradiol. Well, Qatari has a tiny little bit of it, which is about 0.15%, which really doesn't make a difference. And Hubert Mercure was the chemist who figured this out. Well, tell you the truth, it's true, because I was using Serrata for my knee pain. And I found I'm on blood thinners, and I found that my INR level went crazy. And I couldn't understand what, because I wasn't using anything else, and I wasn't eating anything different. And after this study came out, I stopped it, and my INR levels went back to normal. And this chemical is in the essential oil and it's in the resin. So it's in both. So those that are on blood thinners or have blood problems or are on any type of heart medication should not use this resin. So we have saccharin. Saccharin is very, very interesting. It's called Hajari frankincense, named after the Hajari Mountains. It comes in 4 grades. Actually, when it comes off the tree, it comes off all in 1 grade and all different colors. And what they do is they pick out the different colors and they separate them. And they found that each color, the chemotype that's in each color of alpha-pinene is a little bit lower than each grade. So, but it's a very interesting resin because it comes as green saccharin, which is supposed to be the highest, which, to tell you the truth, is a lot of bull because it's all marketing. It's
Thank you for saying, thank you for saying, so I remember years ago, I went to an aromatherapy shop and I buy a lot of oils there. and they're like, "Oh, green frankincense, this is the best one." And I don't even know if I bought it or not, but I was just like, let's slow down and let's figure out why, if it
Yeah,
is,
well,
right?
let's put it this way. The green has the strongest smell out of all. But because it only, wait, I'll shop it now. Now you can see it's more green. So the green has more, it's a little darker, but once a year, it comes out a very light green. And the second part of the year, it comes out a little darker. So they call it royal. It has
Pardon me,
the
they call it what?
royal,
Royal.
royal Hajari. There's no difference between the light and the dark. There's a major difference. You know what it is? Money.
Green.
Green. That's the green. The major difference is that one is darker than the other. Do they have different chemicals? No. They have exactly the same chemotypes in the light green versus the dark green. Do they have the same BA, boswellic acid? Yes. What's the difference? One is darker than the other. And the darker only comes out once in a blue moon, which makes it rarer. So that's the difference. But each one has a different purpose, and each one works differently on everybody. It comes green, it comes superior, which is the second grade, which is more of a white. They call it white superior. As you see, it's a tier. And white superior smells a little tiny bit less strong than the green. The next one is the brown. Now, the brown is very interesting because the brown, as you see, it smells and tastes like fruit. If you were sitting in a room of oranges, grapefruits, lemons, and limes, that's what brown tastes like. Where the green and the white taste more of like cinnamon musky type smell, deep type smell. But the brown doesn't have that smell. It has and it tastes just like cinnamon. And then there is the black Sacra. This is a bigger piece of the black, which is this one right
Wow.
here. Okay, this is the white, this is the brown, this is the green. So the black is mostly used for perfume because it's got a very, very deep, sweet smell. It has an absolute, it's supposed to be the last grade, but it has the absolutely best smell. Where brown works for my husband and it's third grade, green does nothing for him. And for me, white does better than the green. And I have a client who thinks green is better. So it's your chemistry that makes up the difference. And then once a year, it comes out like this, orange in bigger tiers. This is like a miracle. It normally, let me see if I can get it because it's dusty. But you see, it's orange.
Wow.
And so they call it orange hojari. And it's quite expensive because it rarely comes out this color. And this also tastes citrusy, very similar to the brown. I think it's the brown and it just turned color during that time of the year when they take it off the tree. So, but it's a very interesting, and each one has a different price. So the most expensive is the green, then comes the superior white, then comes the brown, then comes the black, and then there's one more that is not in the Hojari Mountains. It is in Salalia, which is lower down. It's the mountains are up here. This is basically at sea level, and it's called sticky black sakura. And if you pull it apart, it's like taffy, and it smells gorgeous, but they don't like to sell that one because it's very, very hard to work with. It's full of ole resin gum. And if you leave it in the container, it becomes a big blob. So you have to use a hammer to knock it down, which we do, because I got it like this and I had to really knock it down. So it's very, very interesting. The resin is excellent for any type of muscle and joint pain and arthritis. The rule is out with Sakura because Sakura and Katari are the exact same tree. They just grow in different climates and different soil, so you get different amount of alpha-pinene. Sakura has a higher amount of alpha-pinene than Katari does. Sakura's resin looks different than Katari's, but they're the same tree. So and climate and soil make a big difference depending on where you are. But other than that, it's supposed to be the exact same tree. They look alike. If you put the two trees together, you'd never know which one's which. But their resin is totally different. We have Feriana, which happens to be one of my favorites. And we think this is the one that was given to the baby Jesus because of what it looks like. It's native to northern Somaliland, where it's called, the locals call it Madi. It's their pride and joy. It has a very sweet and warm fragrance, and it has spice and floral notes. It actually, to me, smells like honey. It contains a large amount of alpha-pinene and alpha-thenogene. It differs from all other types of resin because of its pure ole resin contact, and it's not water soluble. So if you stick it in water, it's just going to float on top. It's not going to mix. It can be chewed as gum, and that's what it's mostly used for toothache and stomach issues, and aids in relaxation. It's sold a lot to Egypt because they actually use it as chewing gum. The Egyptians have the best teeth because they use it as chewing gum. It's perfect for making creams and salves and tinctures for its healing properties. It's easy to work with because it melts very, very fast in oil. But as I said, in water, it just floats. It does nothing. It's great for mature skin, signs of aging, arthritis, and muscle joint. It is excellent for arthritis. I use it on my knees. It is anti-inflammatory. It's shown to either reduce cartilage deterioration and rebuild cartilage. This is another one that's sold by grades.
I'm sorry, can you share a little bit about rebuilding cartilage? Because I work with a lot of patients that have knee pain. I have very good results with acupuncture massage, different essential oils like lemongrass, ginger,
Well, the
frankincense essential oil.
advantage of
But can you share a little bit how we would use this?
as you would infuse it. And further down in the slides, I'm going to show you how to make an infusion.
I'll be patient.
What?
I'll be patient.
Okay, be patient. It comes in first grade, which is a little bit bigger than this. And if you look at it, you see how golden it is. That's first grade. And sometimes it comes even bigger, like what you see in the picture. I showed you the size of first grade. And as you see, the color of it is very golden. And I think this is what they gave to the baby Jesus because they thought it was gold, mesmerizing and medicinal and gold. The Somalis think that's what was given. The people in Oman think it was green sacra because it's different. We'd have to go back in time and see. So, which we can't. So you can't tell either one of them which one it is. But those are the two they think it is. It comes in second grade, which is about this size. That's second grade. All right. Now it breaks apart. It's the most of the resin, if you chew it, you'll break a tooth. This resin actually dissolves. And if you notice, let's see if I can get it. Well, of course, I took a piece that doesn't break. If you see how easy it broke in half,
Yep.
and it's still falling apart. It is, most companies don't like to sell it because trying to ship it, you can wind up with sand. You could start off in big pieces. By the time you get it, it's all sand if it's not packed correctly. Third grade is about this size. And then it can come powder. First grade, when it's this size, sells for a lot of money. It's very, very hard. I'm trying to, I used to carry it. Now I don't. Now I only use this as a showpiece because they don't want to ship it to me because they're afraid if they ship it to me and it comes as third grade, I'm not going to pay for what first grade is. So a lot of companies will only ship second and third grade, and that's mostly what I have. It's excellent in infusions. All resins need about 60 days to be infused. This one only needs about 30 because it dissolves real fast. It does not contain any boswellic acid at all, but as I said, it's very anti-inflammatory. I use it all the time. I have arthritis in my knees, and I use it. I actually use a mixture of it. So it's a wonderful, and it smells fabulous. It really does. It happens to be my favorite. Neglecta, my first favorite. This is my second favorite. And this one is very interesting. It grows in Ethiopia and Kenya. It is not striped. It comes off the tree. It actually just falls. And then, as you see here, they pick it up because it just plops off the tree. It's very sweet and it has an amber type note. It has a very nice smell. It's made up of alpha-pinene, alpha-theogen, saponine, delta-3 carine, and limonene. It helps cut. What is very interesting about this resin, it helps calm the mind and is used in meditation. It gives you clear thoughts and spiritual pursuits. It reduces the feeling of anxiety and pain and emotional stress. And what we found is that when you infuse it in a carrier oil, those that have asthma, COPD, and pneumonia or bronchitis, when massaged on the chest, opens up the lungs to allow people to breathe easier. I use it on my lung cancer patients in hospice, and the ones that go, and it's amazing. After a day of putting this on them, the stops, and they can breathe through their lungs a lot easier. My sister-in-law has COPD. She's tried everything. And she got it by living in Colorado in the mountains. So she moved to Oregon to get away from the heavy mountains, but she still had to use oxygen. So I said, I'm going to make you something worst that'll happen is nothing. You use it 3 times a day and see what happens. She no longer uses an oxygen tank. She
Wow.
only puts this on. She doesn't need it at all. And she buys it by the bottle from me. And she only uses a little bit, 1 or 2 drops on her chest is all she needs. And at this point, she only uses it twice a day. She used to use it 3 to 4 times a day when she was real bad. Now she only uses it between 1 and 2 times a day, and it keeps her maintained. So it's amazing. It's not edible, but it can be used on the skin. And it looks like this. It's dark, looks like a rock, and it's soft, and it also is not water soluble, and it melts very fast like Theriana does. And it's used for either burning or making infusions with. So it's really great. I've used it when I had bronchitis, and it's also good for sleep issues. I use it at night. I put a drop here and a drop here, rub it together, inhale, and I sleep like a baby. I don't need anything else but that. Especially when you have emotional stress and mental anguish, when you're up all night thinking of what you're going to do the next day, you use this, you're out cold, you don't wake up. So it's a great resin for that. And most people don't know that. And the essential oil basically does the same thing, but I like the resin better. I find that the resin works better than the essential oil. The essential is just too heavily concentrated. And when they make it into essential oil, the smell changes. I don't know why. Maybe it's because how it's distilled. But when it's an essential oil, it doesn't smell as nice as when it's the actual resin and even infused. Next is Reveille. Reveille is a resin that is hard as a rock. Looks like this. There's no way I'm breaking this. Very, very hard to break. You usually have to chop it or put it in small pieces. The smell of it is outstanding. It smells like a very expensive perfume.
Mm.
Really. It's very, very good for aging skin, mature skin, to get rid of those wrinkles or the crow's eyes that they call when you make it into an infusion. It has a very high limiting contact, which makes it also antifungal. It contains alpha-pinene and octanol. Octanol is a chemical used in perfumes and flavorings, and that's what they use. You'll find it if you look at the very expensive perfumes. If you look at the ingredients, you'll see Reveille in them. So it's not an expensive resin, but most people don't make, it's very hard to find it in an essential oil because to distill it like gets stuck to the bottom of the still. So it's a horror to clean. So the same thing of when you infuse it. When you infuse it in a jar, you're basically throwing out that jar because it gets stuck like glue. So you want to infuse it in a jar that you don't care about. And that's why you don't see a lot of the essential oil and why it's very expensive for essential oil, because it costs them a fortune to clean the still after they've done it.
Mm.
Myrrh. Let me find my pieces of myrrh. I have them all laid out here in little bags. Myrrh, the word myrrh corresponds with a common Semitic root MRR, meaning bitter. Its name entered the English language from the Hebrew Bible. In the Bible, it's listed at least 100 times. It is a natural gum or resin extracted from a number of small thorny tree species of the genus Comphoria. It's pronounced Mira. So whenever I speak to the Somalis, they love my accent. So they tell me, pronounce it for me, please. So I say Myrrh. No, 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 no. You have to say the real name. So I say Mira, Camphora Mira. So they like the way it sounds on me. They say it sounds differently on me, on them. It's a natural gum or resin extracted from a number of small thorny trees from the genus Comphoria. So it's not a frankincense. In pharmacy, it's used as an antiseptic in mouthwash, goggles, and toothpaste. Excellent to make as a teacher and the teacher was in my book, how to make it for mouth problems, any type of sores. You can make it a salve. You can make it an infusion as long as instead of you use a carrier oil, you can put it in your mouth, like olive oil. It's used in healing salves that can be applied for bruises, aches, and sprains. It's very good for wound healing, ulcers, colds, and cough congestion, and it can be used as for arthritic pain. Problem with it is it moves the blood. So if you're pregnant or have heavy menstruations, you should not use the resin, and people on blood thinners need to be very careful because it moves the blood. Same thing for the essential oil and for the resin, but it is excellent for any type of mouth problems. One of the biggest problems with it, and it's more of a reddish look in it, it smells bitter, has a terrible smell. So most people don't use it as the primary source. They, just like essential oil, will mix it with something, will mix it in a blend, because you think that the resin smells bitter. The essential oil smells even more bitter because it's highly concentrated. So, but again, if you have heavy menstruations, you have to be very careful. And it's not recommended at all for those that are pregnant. You can have a miscarriage. So I would stay away from this if you're pregnant. If you have heavy menstruations and you find you get a lot of blood clots in when you have your period, you can use a little bit of it to break up the clots. But I would not use it every single day, because if it breaks it up and makes the blood too thin, then you are back to the fact of getting heavier periods. So you got to be very careful when you're menstruating, or if you're pregnant, using this particular resin. Then we have opopanax. Opopanax is called the cousin of myrrh. They call it sweet myrrh. It's more of an orange look, and I call it the Halloween myrrh because it is orange. And but not many people know about this one. It's got a very sweet smell. It has a very earthy smell also. It smells very similar to lavender, and I think it smells like chocolate. It has a chocolatey smell. I actually make an incense using cocoa, and I sprinkle it in the opopanax. And when you burn it, one of my clients now call it chocolate crack, because it smells just like you're in a chocolate factory. Between the smell of the opopanax and mixed up with the cocoa, and I also put benzoin in there, the smell is outstanding. It has a component of incense. It's used as a component as I said, for instance, and perfumed since biblical times, where it was used to cleanse and purify the spirit. It can be used for digestive issues, and the people in Ethiopia actually chew it when they have stomach issues. So, and most people don't even know anything about it. It's also sold in the essential oil, but people that I know that sell it tell me they don't get a lot of orders for it because most people don't even know how to use it. So it's like the poor lost resin, and it's really so nice, and it's not expensive. So, you could try it and see for yourself. And that can be burned by itself. I wouldn't burn the myrrh by itself. Then you're going to have to burn Katari to get rid of the smell of the myrrh. But the pumpernicks, you definitely can. Palo Santo. Palo Santo, and I'm bringing this in because it's related to frankincense. And it's let me just move this up a little bit so I could see, put it over there. All right. It's a mystical tree that grows on the coast of South America and is related to frankincense, because it comes from the same Bercea family. In Spanish, the name really means holy wood. It is part of the citrus family and has a sweet note of pine, mint, and lemon. It's traditionally used for helping with common colds, flu-like symptoms, stress, and all types of headaches. It is one of the best things to use for migraines. It is unreal. You can actually burn it because it looks like this. Smells beautiful. I can sit there and just smell it all day without burning it. Or you can scrape it and put it in tea and drink it. Of course, you got to take out the pieces. You don't want to swallow wood, but it is excellent, excellent for migraines. I have a lot of clients that use it for migraines, and so is the essential oil. We keep a bottle of the essential oil in the refrigerator, and my husband gets bad migraines. When he gets a migraine, he takes it out, puts 2 drops on a cotton ball, inhales it, migraine's gone within 5 minutes.
Just like that?
Just like that.
That's amazing.
Just like that. He's lazy. He doesn't want to sit there and burn one of these, or he doesn't want the tea. He's not a tea person. So I said, well, why don't you try the essential oil? And the essential oil actually works for him. I would rather burn it or make a tea out of it. It relaxes me and it calms me. Where was I? Okay, many people have said that this tree is endangered. But now, if I pronounce this right, because my Latin is terrible, Balnesia samartoi, and you can read it, is the threatened one, but not Bercea gravinolis. Bercea samartoi grows in the Gran Chaco region of northern Argentina and southern Paraguay. This one grows in the hills of coastal Ecuador. The trees are totally different in color and markings. So this one is definitely sustainable. Again, you can burn it and use it as a smudge. Some people actually burn it when they buy a new house or a new area, and they wave it around and like sage, and it gets rid of the heebie-jeebies. Or you can shave it and make a tea. You put a teaspoon of the shavings in a cup of hot water. You let it sit for about 5 minutes, take it out, and then drink it. You can actually put the shavings in a tea bag, put it in an empty tea bag, put it in the cup, and you can even let it sit there, because there you're not going to swallow the shavings. And it does get rid of headaches. It's amazing what this little stick can do. The tree has to be dead for them to cut it up. It takes about 20 years for the tree to croak. And then when it's laying on the ground, that's when they cut it up. So they cannot cut up a healthy tree. Gum arabic. This is a very favorite of mine also, and very different. And I was very, very surprised. And it looks like this, just like the picture. It is water soluble, and it comes from the hardened sap of the acacia tree species. It grows mostly in the Sudan and throughout the Sahel, from Senegal to Somaliland and Somalia. It's a complex mixture of glycoproteins and polysaccharides, used mostly consisting of arbenones and galactose. It is soluble in water, edible, and used primarily in the food industry. You see that in like Coca-Cola, you see acacia gum, and as a stabilizer. It's used also as a binder for paint products and cosmetic. It is one of the best things to lower blood sugar, and I'm proof. I have, and when I was told this by the company that I work with, he uses it, he's from Somaliland, and he uses it to lower his blood sugar. And I go, you're kidding. And he goes, no, you got to try it. I said, okay, I'm game. So at that time, my blood sugar was, I'm pre-diabetic, and I've been like that for 20 years. My blood sugar usually ran between 6.8 and 6.9, my A1C. Well, I figured, okay, he's full of it. It just can't work. So you take 1 ounce to 8 ounces of hot water, and you mix it up, and you let it sit, and you keep stirring it. And by the end of the day, it will dissolve completely, and the water will look pink, just like the picture. The coloring in the picture, it will look pink. You strain out any of the imperfections like bark that might have been stuck in it. It has no taste and no smell. And what you do is you start with it, and it's very, very good for IBS. It gets rid of gas, IBS D. And so what you do is you take it, you start off with a teaspoon once a day, just to make sure you don't get any gas problems from it. Then you can go to a tablespoon after that. My A1C went from 6.9 to 5.9. And now it's between 5.9 and 6.1. I take this religiously. I put it in my coffee in the morning because it has no taste, has no smell. And I drink it with my coffee every single morning. I've been doing it for 3 years.
Wow.
And it's been holding my sugar. I have clients that are also pre-diabetic. They're using it, and it's doing the exact same thing. They say it lowers cholesterol levels. I haven't seen it on me, so that I don't know. It's also used in incense to bind the incense together. So you put it in the middle of 2 pieces. You take a piece of sacra, and you take a few pieces of myrrh, let's say, and then you put in the middle, you put a piece of the acacia gum. It will bind the 2 together, so when you smell it, you'll get a combination of the 2 together, and the smell is more even. So it is used a lot in incense. It's not burned by itself because it has no smell and it has no smell. So you're not getting anything out of it by burning it by itself. I have a client who asked me to pick out the big pieces comes in all different shapes and sizes, and she puts it on her dining room table as a decoration. She doesn't even use it. And I used to say to her, why are you doing it this way? You can actually use it medicinally. But different strokes for different folks. But it does work. It really does work.
So we would
And
need to use caution for those that are on medicine to lower blood sugar then.
yes, for those that are on diabetic medicine, they have to check to make sure it's not going too low. So they could, I have somebody who's got diabetes type 2, and she uses it every couple of days instead of every day, and it keeps the levels more maintained. So you can use it. I don't recommend it for diabetes type 1. Because there's too many factors in that. But if you're on medication for diabetes type 2, you can play with it a little bit and see how it works. If you find it lowers you way too low, then of course you got to stop it. So if you're using it for that purpose, otherwise use it for, burning, mixing two together. It's also used as a binder for paint, for oil paint. They melt it and they mixed it into the oil paint, and it binds it better on the oil paintings that they do. So I went to New York City, and I went downtown in the what's the name of the place where all the artists go?
West Village.
Yes, West Village. And I saw a painter sitting there, and he had the acacia gum melted in a bowl with heat going on it, so it stayed melted. And I said to him, is that acacia gum? And he said, yes, I mix it when I do my paintings. I dab it into the oil, and then I take some of that out with a teaspoon, and I dab it on that, and that's when I put the painting on. So I said, I found that very interesting. I said, if you need more, I sell it.
Good for you.
So I put myself everywhere. Hydrosol. Hydrosol is the aromatic water that remains after steam distillation or hydrodistillation. Hydrodistillation is the way to distill resin, because it's mixing. Think of a pressure cooker. Inside the pressure cooker, it has a basket. If it's steam distilled, it's sitting on top of the water. So the vapors have to go through the pot, through the basket, then get through the condenser to create the vapors for the essential oil. If it's hydrodistilled and it's rotating in, you get a deeper flavor, smell, you get more of the chemical properties in it. It's just much nicer, much, much nicer. And and the smell is much stronger, and you're getting more out of it. So whenever you look for hydrosol, if you purchase it, you don't have to. I sell Qatari, and I distill myself also. But if you look for it online, make sure that they hydrodistilled it, not steam distilling, because you're not going to get the full benefit out of it. It's more gentler than the essential oil. Neglector is wonderful for anxiety. Qatari is great for a skin toner, and it's also great for mosquito bites. When you get a mosquito bite, if you spray the Qatari on it, it gets rid of the itching. It also is very good to use on children and the elderly if you can't use the essential oil. The hydrosol, we use the Qatari hydrosol, we use for diaper rash. It's great for diaper rash. And Sacra's excellent for pain. And Feriana is very good for joint and muscle pain. And when you smell it, it smells like the resin if it's hydrodistilled. If it's steam distilled, not so much.
I'm curious about for pain, like how much would you need to use for like joint pain or muscle pain, whether it's from working out or something like arthritis? Because it seems to me like I never think about using hydrosols for pain, right? I like to
You,
use them on the face and, just, around the body and line certain
well,
like energy centers. But for
you,
physical pain, I never really think of them. So can you shed
yeah,
some light on that
you
for me?
can, you spray it where it hurts. And yes, it's not going to work like the essential oil. It's not going to work like the infusion, but it's a lighter version and it works. Some people like it better. It all depends on the person. I will spray it. I have it sitting here occasionally. If I don't want to use the essential oil, if I have a pain in my neck, I'll give it a spray and I'll use it that way. And it's instant pain. Hydrosol is instant pain. It's not
Acute.
long lasting. So if you're looking for a quick fix, that's what hydrosol is for pain. For toning, it really is nice. It's because you got to be very careful with essential oil on your face. You can't use more than a 1% dilution on your face. But the hydrosol you could just spray as long as you close your eyes. You don't want to get it in your eyes because it is strong. So you close your eyes, you spray your face, you let it sit and absorb. You can leave it on your face, or if you don't like the wet feeling, you can cotton ball it off. But it really makes a nice toner. So the neglector, I've sprayed it in front of people and they go, wow, wow. And I go, what's the wow? And they said, I feel alive. And that's the feeling you get with neglector when you put it on you. So it's very calming. So if you don't want the strongness and you want an instant fix, that's what a hydrosol is for. Any of the hydrosols is an instant fix. So if you got a bad itch and you can spray it and the itch will go away. Maybe it'll come back 3 or 4 hours later, but instantaneously it'll go away. So that's the of any hydrosol, whether you use lavender, lemon balm, any of them. It's an instant fix. It's not long lasting. So I'm giving you here a comparison between the two, the essential oil versus the resin. The left side, so I don't have to repeat myself 12 times, is the essential oil, and the right side is the resin. So for the essential oil, it should not be ingested unless with a trained clinical aromatherapist with a medical degree. The resins can be ingested in moderation. Most of them can, some of them can't. Revere cannot, neglector cannot. Those are basically the only two frankincense resins that cannot, and myrrh is not recommended to ingest. For the essential oil may interfere with some prescription drugs, does not interfere with most prescription drugs except for Serrata. That's the only one. We haven't found it interferes with anything other than Serrata. Must be used with a carrier oil for the essential oil. You don't need a carrier oil unless you're infusing it. You can put it in your mouth and suck it. You can use it for saccharin can be put in your mouth, or Fariana can be put in your mouth when you have a toothache before you could get to the dentist. It takes away the pain. A friend of mine went to had a root canal. He came back and he goes, uh-oh, what's going to happen when all the Novocaine wears off? And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to make you a myrrh tincture. Take some of my myrrh tincture and use that. And when it starts to wear off, and if you feel any pain at all, just swish it around in your mouth where the root canal was. Leave it in for about a minute and spit it out. He called me up and he said, oh my God, I'm in no pain. I used it like 3 times and I'm in no pain at all.
Beautiful.
So that's what it's good for. Restrictions with dilution for seniors and children for the essential oil. There's no restrictions for seniors and children, but you need to use common sense. Should not be used during chemotherapy. There's no restrictions during chemotherapy, but you need to check with your doctor first. Always check with your doctor first. Essential oils are very highly concentrated. Resins are the raw material from the plant, not concentrated at all. Essential oil does not contain boswellic acid. It is too heavy a molecule to pass through the distillation. So if anybody tells you that it has BA in it, they're full of it. It is not in the essential oil, it is not in the hydrosol, and it's not in the CO2. It's only in 7 of the resins. That's it. Frankincense can be used, as I said, to burn as incense, infuse the resin, make tinctures, ingredients for salves and lotions, take in tea or put in coffee, make lemonade or water, make lip balms, use the sediments after you do an infusion for to make soap, use the after boil as an extract for skin conditions, Katari and Sacra, and you can cook with it. I'm very famous for my Fariana cookies. How do you burn it? You can use a manual burner like this, which is the most popular, to tell you the truth, because you could take it wherever you want. You take 2 candles. You put a candle on the bottom, and you gut this candle out, and you use kosher candles, because kosher candles are made out of soy wax. So they're all natural. And then you gut it out, and you put the candle here, and you put the resin inside the candle. And then this can be done, can be unscrewed up and down, and you make sure the flame is just under it without touching it. And it comes out with a stream, so it doesn't set off your smoke detector. And the advantage of it is that you can use it in any room. You can move it wherever you want. It's made in India. I sell it. I sell all of them except the last one. The burner is with charcoal. So then you need to burn a piece of charcoal and put it on top. And if you live in a house where the smoke detector is nearby, make sure you move it out of the way, because you will set off. I use this method outside so that it creates a lot of smoke. And it's nice, but I don't recommend it for inside the house. Then you have the electric one, which is really nice also, but then you're trapped. You're stuck with it in one room. So you can't move it, and you definitely can't move it until it cools off, because the whole thing gets hot. And what I don't like about them is they could be very dangerous. So you need to be very, very careful with them. And if you go to my website, you can get this one, you can get this one. And I also sell one for the Palo Santo. Infusing it in a carrier oil. You can grind the resin into a powder using a mortar, a pestle, or a coffee grinder. The coffee grinder actually makes it dissolve faster, but you can also use the whole resin. You don't have to grind it down. The grinding it down just makes it go a little faster. But the rule of thumb is 1 ounce of resin to 8 ounces of carrier oil. You can use a Pyrex pot and do a double boil method and do it that way and leave it overnight. But then you still need to let it sit in a ball jar for 8 weeks in a cool, dark place.
So even if it's ground up and in powder form, you need to leave it for 8 weeks for it to be
Yes,
therapeutically
if you
effective?
use it in a double boiler, you can leave it for 6 weeks instead of 8 weeks. The longer you let it sit, the more it pulls out. I have people who don't listen to me and they have it for 4 or 5 months. And the smell is incredible. I also have it in the back of the closet that you see behind me. And sometimes I have 100 of them back there. And sometimes I don't see it. And I said, oh, and you must label it what it is and the date you did it. Because I pulled it out and I go, oh my God, this is from 6 months ago. Opened it up, it was fabulous. It was unbelievable fabulous. At that point, I strained it and I used it. So the longer it sits, the better it is. But I would not let it sit less than at least 60 days. If the only one that could sit for 30 days is Neglecta and Ferriata, because that melts real fast and it gets in there real fast.
Does any of the powder dissolve?
Most of it does. So does the resin. You're left with some residue left over. You'll be left with a little bit of residue left over, and that residue you can use as a face scrub, or you can use it as ingredients for making soap. It's a great exfoliant. So you can strain it with a coffee press or cheesecloth. I would not strain it with a coffee filter. We'll be sitting here to the next millennium before it actually strains because it's very thick. Tea or coffee. For tea, you take 1 teaspoon. There you need the powdered resin. So, and when you powder it, you put it in the freezer overnight. Because remember, it has only resin gum in it. So if you use it without freezing it, you're never going to get whatever you decided to grind it with clean. So you want to freeze it first. You take 1 teaspoon of the powdered resin, 1 empty tea bag, 6 ounces of water, boil the water, place the tea bag in the water, steep it for about 3 minutes. I actually let it steep for about 5 minutes because I like it darker. Then you, depending on the resin, it will change color. And when it changes color, it's no longer white. Then you can drink it. It's great for stress or anxiety. In coffee, you could do the same thing. You use the same amount as the tea. You wait till you smell the resin and you drink it. It's excellent in coffee. It's got a very interesting taste, especially when you use sacra. When you use sacra is one of the better ones to use for water and tea. It just melts better. You can also use Pafaria or Katari, but Katari has a perfumey type smell. So when you go to drink it, the smell might be too overpowering, where Sacra has a duller smell. For brown Sacra and orange Sacra, you can make lemon water. So, or lemon tea because it has that citrusy type smell. So you're going to get it also. This is my famous Mariana cookies. These are to die for. When you're making cookies, if you decide to make cookies with resin, you must use margarine or butter. And you can I buy the natural plant margarine, or you use butter if I'm non-dairy, so I have no choice, but you can use butter. The butter is a carrier oil. Remember, Fariana cannot dissolve in water. So what you do is you mix the Fariana, you take a teaspoon, no more than a teaspoon, because if you use more than a teaspoon, forget it. It's going to overpower the whole thing. It's going to taste terrible. And you mix it and melt it in the butter. So you melt the butter first, you mix the Fariana powder in it. Then you put all your ingredients together and you get chocolate chip cookies. Or you can get lavender cookies. I made lavender and chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip are my favorite cookies.
Oh, well, then
Unbelievable.
you should get this recipe and try it because it is to die for. I made it for a group that I get together with every month. We had to make a dessert, so I made this. So I brought it with me. By the end, I tell people you can't eat more than two because I didn't want them to get too much of the resin. It's like CBD. It makes them very calm and relaxed. I watched them after they ate it. I would say after an hour after they ate it, they were falling asleep in the room.
Wow.
And they couldn't understand why they were so tired and so relaxed. And both of them who ate it told me that they had the best night's sleep they ever had. And I make these a lot. I really do. I make a lot of, especially the chocolate chip. The lavender is a required taste. Sometimes people feel lavender tastes like soap. So I don't make the lavender a lot. I just made a new one with Fariana, pumpkin. I did
Ooh.
pumpkin. I used the same recipe, only I added pumpkin puree to the recipe. And oh my God, were they delicious. So it's very interesting what you could do with Fariana. And one of the people that went home told me that, my shoulder was bothering me all night. But when I got home after eating your cookies, I had no pain in my
Amazing.
shoulder. So I said, you see, it does wonders.
I want to start selling cookies instead of herbs.
Right, that's it. Sustainability, which is very, very important. When you purchase resins from reputable companies, make sure they do fair trade. Those who purchase through fair trade teach the farmers how to grow more trees and treat them correctly. Be sure to ask your supplier to look into cooperatives and demand ethical and sustainable sourcing. Use the essential oil only when necessary. It takes 1 pound of resin to make about a 30 ml bottle of oil. By burning one piece of resin, you could get the same effect and use less. 1 ounce of resin can make a lot of salves or lotions for the same usage you would use the essential oil. The other thing is when you purchase, make sure it has the Latin name on it. If it does not have the Latin name, do not buy it. If it just says frankincense, which one is it? And if you have no idea and you haven't read my book, you're not going to know which one it is. So a lot of companies will put rocks in their resin, and they'll put plastic in the package that they're selling, because you'll have no idea until you burn it. Because when you burn it, it smells like a dead bird. Then you'll know that something's wrong. And if you infuse it on your skin, you won't know until you get a rash. And you'll think it's coming from the resin, and it's not the resin, it's the synthetic ingredients they put in it. So make sure, people ask me all the time, and people are showing me pictures all the time. What is this? And I tell them, why does it just say frankincense? Did you look on the label to see somewhere where it says what it is? And they said, they turn it over and they say, no, it only says frankincense. Then why did you buy it? You don't know what it is. Why would you buy it? Well, I figured they knew better than me. Well, guess what? Once a fool, always a fool. Fool me once, you can't fool me twice. So you got to be extremely careful. This is my book. As you see here, it is loaded with all types of recipes, a lot more than when I gave you here. Yep, a lot more than when I gave you here. Lots of different recipes. And I also came out with what's called a companion PDF, and it has 84 recipes in it, but you must get the book first because I do not explain the medicinal properties of anything in those recipes. So you need to read the book to understand how to use what I give you in the recipes. You can get them together on my website. This is the book. And if you live outside the United States, you could get it here. And I also made a PDF of the book. The only problem is you can't print it or copy it because it's copyrighted. But it is a load of information, and I tell you, get the book. So I'd like to discuss with you the biomass and the BA that I was talking about. What is it and where does it come from? It's, as I said, it's the aftermath or the afterboil or the biomass, however you want to put it, at the bottom of the still, once the essential oil and the hydrosol is removed. Inside it is the boswellic acid extract chemical. Again, it's too heavy a molecule. It does not go through the essential oil and the hydrosol. When it comes out, it gets hard as a rock, and it looks like this. When you scoop it out of the still, it looks just like this. And what they do is they lay it out like this, and they dry it into a fine powder. Boswellia Qatari resin is being used from Somalia, and there's also Boswellia Qatari sacra, but there's different percentages of BA in each one. And I will go through them in a second. This is what, unfortunately, what the BA chemical looks like. And you cannot use a GC report to get the chemicals out of this because it's a powder. It needs what's called a standard. It's a standard machine, costs over $2,000 to purchase, and not everybody carries it unless they do extracts. And they break it up into different chemicals, which is the KBA, AKBA, AB, B, acetyl BA, and BA boswellic acid. And when you add up all these numbers, all these percentages here, you get the total boswellic acid in that particular resin. In this case, this is this one happens to be the Qatari, and it's equal to, at this point, this is the raw, so it was equal to about 34%, 35%. How the powder becomes premium, it becomes two ways. It is raw or it is premium. And when it's raw, it is dried out and again made into a powder. And the raw, and it looks like baby powder. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. And I'm only going to take a little bit because it's still sticky. It's
Like this, Robin?
It's sticky. Yes, that's it. That's the raw. It's 35% raw boswellic acid. And it is a little sticky when it's on your hands. I live with it all over me. We were doing sacra, but we found that sacra, the first batch of sacra came out to be 34%, but they've had very bad weather. We've gone through so many different climate changes that Their monsoon weather is usually only 1 month. They've been having 4 and 5 months of monsoon, and the trees have been stressed. So what in Oman, and that's where sakura grows. And the boswellic acid that is coming out is basically coming out as 17%. So it's coming out much lower. It still helps, and it's very good for joint and muscle pain, but it's a lower percentage. I've been working and researching this for about 5 years, and we have had different people do testing for us for fibromyalgia, making it into a serum like that, putting it
Wow.
into a bottle, mixing it up. The 35% does not dissolve completely. You have to strain it out after 2 weeks, but it's excellent for the elderly. I use it a lot in creams for my hospice patients. I use it for diaper rash on babies. We've used it on babies as little as 3 months old. It's very good for eczema and psoriasis and dermatitis, and it's good for muscle and joint pain for those that are 75 years and older. So it does work. It can be ingested and put in a capsule and taken that way with a full glass of water. I am doing extensive testing now with it at 70% and 35%. With outstanding results. We did it in a serum, and with the serum for fibromyalgia, everybody who did the testing for me was ecstatic how well it worked on them. The 70% is with an organic solvent, and I made sure that we used an organic solvent because resin is organic. It grows in the most remote places. Nobody is spraying these trees. You're lucky you could get close to them to get the resin from them. So the company that I'm working with is also certified kosher, certified halal, and certified organic. So I wanted, if he's organic, I wanted to make sure that the solvent was going to be organic. And we tested the 70% on people, and I have testimonials galore, and they are, what it has done is phenomenal. It works on chronic pain, whether you use it topically or internally. And what is out there now, what you see, what is out there now is Serrata. But Serrata, as I said, grows all over India. It's in their backyards. So it's a very inexpensive resin. And because it's very inexpensive, it's cheaper to use the boswellic acid in that. But what we found out is that to pull the percentage of BA in their raw is about 17 to 20%. But they want to sell more, and they want to sell it with a higher BA. So they get around 65%. But they're using a Hexon solvent, which is toxic.
Yep.
And it's cheap. It's very cheap. And he put the company that I'm working with in the Netherlands, he goes, I'm going to send you a sample with the hexagon. And I want you to tell me what you think. He sent it with the hexagon, and he sent it with the organic ethanol solvent.
It's probably night and day.
What?
It's probably night and day.
Oh my God, when I opened it up, I thought I would puke. The Hexon. It smelled so chemically that I said, hell no, we're not using this. Forget it. And when I put it on my skin, I said, okay, I'm going to try this because I experiment on everything. It burned. Imagine swallowing this,
Right.
and the FDA does not regulate supplements. So, yeah, you might be getting the benefit of the BA, but what else are you getting? You're getting toxins in your body. So you don't know what the long-term effect is going to cause. So, but nobody knows that because you do not have to put on your bottle how you got the 70% out. So how they do, so we, in our case, the organic evaporates completely. There's no trace of it left at all. So you're not getting any of it. And how it's done is very interesting. And I'll play this so you can see it. This is the BA right here, the powder. It's dried and then it's put in this machine. And this is the organic ethanol. And it runs through the powder and it pulls it out. Then it's all dried again, because now, even though it's pulling it out, it's still wet. When it lays out is when it evaporates, when the ethanol evaporates out. So when it's dry, they retest it to see how much BA came out. And they've been getting between 70 and 75%. But it's a process and it has to be watched. And it goes into an oven that has a certain type of oven that they use for extractions. And they have to watch it so it doesn't burn. And it's a long process. And the ethanol solvent costs a lot of money. So the powder, the 70% is more expensive than the raw because we have to pay for the solvent. You know, you got to do it somewhere, but it is excellent. Why can't I get it to go to the next? There we go. All right. So again, how is it used? The 35% is 1 teaspoon of powder to 4 ounces of a simple lotion, just like this. You mix it up and then you remix it. It stays on, it's a little gritty, but it stays on the skin longer. So you have a longer effect. So it goes in slow. The same thing works with the 70%. But the 70% is a half a teaspoon to 6 ounces of carrier oil or 4 ounces of hand and body lotion. For the 35%, you when you're doing it in carrier oil, you let it sit in there for 2 weeks and then you strain it. There's really nothing left to strain, but you want some of the residue out because it's sticky.
Sorry, just for my students, if we're using the Qatari with lotion, it's just sit for 1 day.
Mm-hmm. The
Okay.
BA, the BA, just for
Got it.
1 day. Now, for the 70%, it melts instantaneously in carrier oil. In fact, I did it in, yes. This is in fractionated coconut oil. Do you see it?
Yeah.
No,
Well, I see the liquid.
you just see liquid.
Yeah, the screen's a little small. Yeah.
Yeah, that did it in, this is fractionated coconut oil, and I dissolved it in here. And there is nothing in it. It completely dissolves in it. There is no smell. There is no taste to the 70%. There's a little bit of a nutty taste to and smell to the 35%, but it's a nice smell. It's not a, it's not a bad smell. But in the 70%, there's no smell at all. No smell, no taste. Completely dissolves. And you can put it in a vegetable 00 capsule. I buy the kosher ones. And I made them buy the kosher ones. And 00 because it's easier to swallow. And we put black pepper extract powder in it. And the reason for the black pepper is to allow it to absorb and digest better in the system. So you get the full 35% or the full 70%. And those, again, that are on blood thinners should not use it because of the black pepper only, because black pepper can interfere with those on blood thinners. But you can make it without it. The only thing is you're not going to get the full benefit of it because if you're doing the 70%, you might wind up with 35% that actually goes into the system because the body will break down the rest. If you use the 35%, you might get 15 or 20% out of it, but you'll get something. I can't use it because I'm on blood thinners. I'm using the 35% because the 70% for me, I have stomach issues, is just a little too strong. But the 35% has been helping me with the surgery that I had. It's been helping me with my back pain from the surgery. So it's amazing. And as I said, I do sell it wholesale and I do sell it retail. Capsules we aren't selling yet because we first have to accumulate the studies and we'd like to get it published before we actually sell it wholesale and retail. So we're working on it. I have
Lots of good stuff, Robin.
40 people are testing it for me. 20 are doing the 35%, 20 are doing the 70%. By the end of October, they will give me back their tracking information, and then we will put the whole thing together with the doctor that I'm working with and make a complete case study and abstract of it. So, but it's great stuff. And as I said, the 35% is good for those that have sensitive skin, children, seniors, and the elderly. 70% is good for acute pain or acute anything, and is not recommended for children under the age of 16 years old. They should go for the 35%. The B-Sacra is good for pain in muscles and joints. Both can be used on animals, providing that you use an edible carrier oil. So if the animal licks it, it does not get sick from the carrier oil. I have clients that are using it on their horses. They made it into a carrier oil with olive oil, and they put it on the hind legs of the horses. Somebody I know races her horse and his hind legs hurt, so she puts it on that. I put it on a friend of mine who has a German Shepherd with dysplasia hips, and the medication that the vet gave him was giving him terrible diarrhea. So I said, let's try this. And when it worked, and he realized it worked. So when he was in pain, he would go over and get the bottle and hand it to her. He was a German Shepherd. He's not alive anymore. He was old. But he would bring the bottle to her as if to tell her, please put this on me.
That's why dogs are the best.
Yeah, amazing. Totally amazing. Okay, so where did you get it? From me. That's the website. This is the raw. This is the premium. The premium is a little bit finer than as you can see there, it's a little finer than the raw. It's less sticky. It's a little lighter than the raw. The raw is heavier because the solvent pulls out and takes everything else that the raw has in it out. So it becomes even lighter. So, but you can buy it retail or you can buy it wholesale from me if you're a business. These are all my references. And they're basically coming from the book. This is me. And my website, my Facebook page, my resin page.
Beautiful.
So it's all here. And I think that's it. All right, so I'm going to stop the share. If I can find it, I have to stop this. Wait a second, let me get rid of this. Okay.
Robin,
All
thank you
right.
for sharing such a wealth of valuable information, insightful inspiration. You're really a pioneer with essential oils and resins and boswellic acid, and very, it's a, it's an inspiration for me to see and to hear all your work, and then I'm going to be able to share with, my patients, my friends, and my students, and also use some of it on myself and my patients. So I want to thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I like getting the word out to people because there's so much fallacy out there and faulty out there, and people need to know how to use this properly.
100%, 100%. And I think it's people like you that are bringing the integrity into our field. So thank you.
It's
Thank
still
you.
aromatherapy.
Yes, it is. It's still aromatherapy, and amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very
You are
welcome.
awesome. Thanks again.